Emerging after 18 months in custody, one of the most emotive and divisive trials in recent memory, with a jury just as torn. It was in the early hours of August the 6th last year that 6 members of Palestine Action crashed through a warehouse door in a retired police van and into a factory based in Filton near Bristol, owned by the subsidiary of an Israeli arms firm, Elbit Systems.
I'm leaving. Okay, leave that.
Emerging dressed in red jumpsuits and carrying sledgehammers, they filmed themselves smashing equipment they believed was to be used in Gaza before being confronted by 3 security guards, one here wearing black. The police arrived moments later. The prosecution argued the 6 defendants were meticulously organised and there to cause as much damage as possible, carrying weapons to threaten or, if necessary, harm anyone who got in their way.
If you swing that once right at me, it's going to get really serious.
The defence instead said they hadn't expected to be confronted by security guards and were completely out of their depth.
It's time to leave.
All 6 were accused of aggravated burglary, criminal damage and violent disorder, but today at Woolwich Crown Court, all 6 were found not guilty of aggravated burglary, with 3 of them, Jordan Devlin, Fatima Rajwani and Zoe Rogers, found not guilty of violent disorder. On all other counts, the jury was hung, including on the additional count of GBH against Samuel Corner.
Get your hands out now!
Corner was accused of fracturing the spine of Police Sergeant Kate Evans.
How could they not be guilty? They should have been put away for years.
Seen here at the top of the screen. The defence lawyer for the 23-year-old argued that he had chemical spray in his eyes, that he never meant to use violence and was trying to protect a co-defendant, who you see here shouting out during an altercation with another police officer. He approaches P.S. Evans as she assists the arrest on all fours, bringing the sledgehammer down on her back. P.S. Evans told the court she had to take 3 months off work after an X-ray showed a lumbar spine fracture and that she was still on restriction.
Let's just replay that. Watch this woman drop the sledgehammer into the police. How could they not be guilty? God.
Sledgehammer down on her back.
Look, bang, sledgehammer into the back of the police officer.
P.S. Evans told the court she had to take 3 months off work after an X-ray showed a lumbar spine fracture and that she was still on restricted duties a year later. She said Corner had told her following his
people need to be put away for life.
Handcuffing that she was complicit in genocide. All 6 defendants argued that they'd set out only to damage weapons and stop the factory operating.
No right to
all,
be doing
apart
any
from
of it.
Samuel Corner, were released on bail today. Their supporters gathered outside the court.
Now, the defendants have already served 18 months in prison without a single conviction. Effectively...
Oh, come on, how could they not be guilty? Are these people stupid? I bet if the sledgehammer was dropped into her back, she'd have a different story.
We can all agree that that effectively is enough punishment for people who were never even convicted.
There was a fiery legal debate at the heart of this trial over intention. One defence barrister compared his client to the suffragettes. Another said hers had been acting out of compassion for the people of Gaza. And then towards the end of the trial, a note was passed from jury to judge, asking whether, if the defendants had genuinely thought they were saving lives by breaking equipment, they could be found not guilty of criminal damage. The judge said no and repeated what he said at the outset of the trial, that the case must be judged on the evidence alone, regardless of whether the defendants or the jury, for that matter, believed that they were morally justified. Today's case is a blow for the CPS, which will spend the next week deciding whether or not to seek a retrial. A further 18 defendants are yet to be tried this year on charges related to the alleged break-in at Elbit Systems and a further 5 over an alleged break-in at an RAF base. Several have been on hunger strike to protest their...
Wherever you see that flag, viewers, you're gonna have severe trouble. and discord.
Bail conditions. Free Palestine! Last August, the Home Office
There's no war in Palestine at the moment. They brought it on. Hamas brought them on itself. This is
and the organisation
so out of order.
Under terror legislation, making it a crime to support them.
Well, prescription is not about protest around Palestine or Gaza, where we had, I think, tens of thousands of people protesting lawfully just this weekend about some of the horrendous events that we've seen in the Middle East. Instead, prescription is about one narrow group that has been involved in violent attacks, including injuries, including weapons.
Since then, according to Amnesty International, more than 2,700 people have been arrested, a move described as disturbing by the UN Human Rights Chief, who said terror laws had been misused to encompass conduct already criminal under the law. Whether the prescription was lawful or not is being considered by British courts in a judicial review, with a decision expected within weeks.
The Western liberal mind conceives of itself as being good because it's liberal. The Western liberal tells him or herself, I'm a good person because I'm liberal because I'm a good person, which means that I believe in things like the brotherhood of man, conscience and compassion, looking after the wretched of the world, the poor and the wretched of the world, standing up against abuses of power. These are all good things, and that's why I'm a liberal. And I'm a liberal because of all these good things. So, one of the expressions of my goodness and my liberalism is that I support the Palestinian Arabs, who I think are an oppressed people, and they are oppressed by the Israelis, who have taken their land away from them, and they are oppressing them. Now, every part of that, in my view, is a lie. But put that to one side. This is what the liberal progressive thinks. And the liberal progressive thinks that supporting the Palestinians is therefore something that makes the liberal progressive a good person. October 7 happened. And suddenly you have a situation in which the people that the liberal progressive has supported as being oppressed, and everything they do is a legitimate defence or resistance against oppression, suddenly we can see that those people have turned into the most bloodthirsty savages that could ever be imagined. Not just people who kill, but who slaughter in a sadistic, barbaric, debauched and depraved fashion that people can't imagine ever happening. They have slaughtered, raped, beheaded, tortured, burned alive babies, children, women, elderly men and others, and in which the people that they have supported as being oppressed are good people because they're victims, are these savages. And the people they have represented as oppressors are the victims. They can't have that. Because if they have that, if they admit that that is the case, then their entire worldview is shattered, because the people, the cause they have supported as representing goodness is shown to be evil. And what does that make them? It makes them evil. So they can't have it. So what do? They go to extraordinary lengths to pretend that black is white, that justice is injustice, that oppression is resistance, and vice versa. So they have to represent the Israelis as being at fault. The Israelis are to blame for what's happened. So there is no better way of blaming people than accusing them of the very thing they are the victim of. Projection. So you accuse them of genocide. We hear it also regularly. The Israelis are accused of being Nazis. It's the same thing. It's not simply an offensive thing. It's a very deliberate thing, because if the Israelis are Nazis, then we are free. We, the liberal West, are free of any kind of guilt or any kind of association with bad things, because they are to blame. They are the people who are bad. And so we are free to continue with our fantasies of us being good people. And I think that's also what lay behind these amazing scenes that we saw on social media of people with their hands tearing down the posters of the hostages. Now you have to ask yourself, what's going through the mind of someone like that? These weren't posters advertising Israel. They weren't advertising the Israeli Defense Forces. They were pictures of babies, of children, of women who had been kidnapped by bloodthirsty monsters, by savage, depraved savages, and were being almost certainly subjected to untold horrors. And yet they were torn down, and the faces of the people tearing them down were contorted very often with rage and hate. And you have to ask yourself, what's going on in the mind of that person? And it seemed to me that they had to literally, with their fingernails, tear it out of sight. It was something that could not be tolerated to be in existence at all. The very concept of the Israeli babies and children as victims of the people they had been supporting, because it contradicted the narrative on which they had hung their own moral worth. And it seemed to me also they were tearing the Jews out, trying to tear the Jewish people completely out of their world, out of their sight, out of their world, out of their minds, out of their thoughts, and out of their consciences. That's to me what it represented. And this whole inversion of genocide thing is part of that. It is not just disgusting, it is not just ridiculous, it's evil. And I think it is a symptom of the evil paths into which the West has fallen through its embrace of a whole range of ideologies, a whole range of thinking, which I think has come to define what we call the liberal progressive West.